I love this haunted house. If the Shriek Shack popped up on Zillow, I'd be all over it. Luigi's Mansion is a game I revisit every October, and every time I do, I almost always stumble upon something new. But at this point I feel like I'm not even playing the same game anymore. I'm so far removed from the normal gameplay, and more so fixed on finding out everything I can about this creepy mansion. So here we are again, standing at the front door of this haunted paradise, ready to share with you 3 weird discoveries within Luigi's Mansion. And before jumping in, if you like spooktastic, retro-looking games, I recommend checking out my new game Zardy's Maze. Grab your flashlight like your good old boy Luigi and head into the dastardly corn maze to see what secrets await. Cause you know me, I love stuff hidden in the dark. You can find a link to download the game for free in the description below, and without further ado, here's 3 weird discoveries in Luigi's Mansion. The start of Luigi's Mansion was always odd to me. You enter your new crib only to immediately leave it after exploring the first room. Sure, Luigi's heart about jumps out of his chest, but it kinda sucks that we get voted off the island by our 3 gold ghost friends as soon as we arrive. Right after this intro cutscene, we retreat with Egad to his underground ghost bunker, and it gives us professional training on how to use a standard vacuum cleaner. But what if that didn't have to happen? So let's rewind a bit. What if we never had to leave the mansion at the start? How would things change if we bypassed that first cutscene? Perhaps Luigi was on top of his cleaning game, and he brought a vacuum with him at the start. Anyways, we enter the room and nothing takes place. However, since we normally do not have access to this room at this point, there's something hidden within that we normally don't exactly see, and that's the poltergust. So apparently the poltergust is stored in the back of the room behind the giant armoire. The only reason the armoire is angled the way it is and moved away from the wall is because that is where the poltergust is hidden when the map loads. It's actually clipping through the floor. We aren't able to move the armoire to pick up the poltergust at all, and all the positioning around the poltergust is blocked off by the furniture. So normally when the player comes through the door to the room, as soon as the player's movement is restored, the intro cutscene takes place with Egad sucking up the ghost. But in that moment, you can actually see the gray nozzle of the poltergust under the armoire right before the cutscene starts. It's a bit hard to spot, but it's there. If we manipulate the camera, we can see that when the camera loads in to face Luigi, Egad is spawned and the scene frozen in time. Once the cutscene finally shows Egad on camera, the poltergust is moved from its current location and is spawned on Egad's back. I'm not entirely sure why they decided to hide it within the parlor room and not out of bounds before the cutscene starts. Egad is loaded in during the cutscene, so why load this in before and independently? If you have an idea, let me know in the comments. It's just super interesting that the poltergust has been hidden back there for all these years, and I haven't seen anyone talk about it online. Every copy of Luigi's Mansion is personalized. There's a Waluigi portrait that has a 0.01% spawn rate, and looking at it will instantly kill Luigi permanently. Yeah, that's totally true. Totally not fibbing. So when you hear the word plexus at this point, you probably automatically assume spooky Mario stuff. For those who watch my video on the internal plexus of the Super Mario 64 castle, you'll be familiar with the concept. Basically, the interior of the place we're looking at doesn't line up with the exterior at all. Lots of games do this, and it's pretty common. But when it comes to Luigi's Mansion, we never typically get to see the entire place loaded in at once. The game does a great job of unloading areas as we leave them and loading in the next place. It's like a giant 3D grid that only has 1 or 2 sections loaded in at a time. So, before we get to the main reason why I'm even bringing this up, let's take a quick second to gander at what the mansion looks like if we were to load in everything at once. It's kinda neat. Mind you, it certainly doesn't mirror the exterior look of the mansion at all, but everything does fit together. Almost all the spaces in the game are accounted for, minus the spaces beneath the staircases. Oh yeah, those exist. Could have been a nice closet, but they're completely off limits despite being there. So now that you can see that everything more or less fits together snugly, it's time to talk about the one room that doesn't, and that's the observatory. So the observatory is super cool and probably my favorite room inside the mansion, if you even want to call it a room. You step inside, and then the world around you changes as it opens up to the universe. You get to blow up the moon too, which is probably the most straight G thing Luigi could do. But where does the observatory actually take place inside the plexus of the mansion? Well, it's actually really cool. So in previous videos, like the time I opened up a black hole in Luigi's Mansion, or when I discovered a cave out of bounds, I talked about the concept that Luigi's Mansion is basically encompassed in this black shell that defines the absolute edges of the game. This keeps Luigi constrained to his environment. And even if we break out of bounds in the courtyard and wander into the off-axis room beside it, we'll eventually find out that we can't enter the forest here. The void stops us. I've always had theories that the forest was accessible at one point in the game, so when I found out the observatory was essentially the path I was looking for, it definitely brought a smile to my face. The observatory is the one room in the mansion that breaks the constraints of the game's boundaries. If we were to abuse Luigi's Mansion's loading and unloading door logic when it comes to rooms, we can actually highlight two separate rooms that aren't connected to each other. Normally, only the current room and the next room are loaded. But in this instance, we kept the observatory loaded when we entered the courtyard. This normally can't happen. And what we see is that the magic bridge from the observatory actually extends out into the forest. It's able to bypass the exterior void of the mansion and can take you to a place beyond its walls. So the entire time we were out playing in the stars, we were actually in the heart of Boo Woods running around the horizon. It's kinda neat to think about. Off-axis enemies and objects are always super neat in video games. The idea that the game was shipped out, and yet given the logic and the constraints of the game, some content is implemented that will never actually be experienced. And that's what this third discovery focuses on. So once we reach the top of the mansion and clear out Boolossus, the power goes out and the mansion arguably gets advanced to its hardest state. All the rooms go dark again, and there are more enemies than ever in each and every room. This was my favorite part of the game because this event is so short-lived, and the mansion can never be returned to this pseudo-hard mode again. Every room has new life breathed into it. Well, at least every room up to Area 3's conclusion. But that's where the developers sort of made a mistake, because when implementing the blackout mode across the mansion, they hit pretty much every area on floor 1, 2, and 3's right side. But in this process, they accidentally included floor 2's sitting room and guest room in this special event. And that's a mighty problem. Why, you ask? Well, we can't get into the sitting room until we made it to the roof, and the roof can't be accessed until the power goes back on. We need the key from within the secret sealed room to enter the sitting room, and we have to fall down the chimney to get to that. So what you're left with is a room that is always locked during the blackout, but it still has a blackout enemy setup that can never be activated normally. Both the sitting room and guest room feature a few fire ghosts, while the guest room also tosses some trash ghosts your way. They're probably the smartest ghosts in the mansion, because they decided to hide in a locked room while Luigi wreaked havoc in the dark. Unless a player is using hacks to get into the room during the blackout, these ghost setups here will never be fought or encountered. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this quick video on 3 smaller discoveries in Luigi's Mansion. If you're looking for another spooky game to play, consider checking out my game Zardy's Maze in the description below. It's free spooky goodness after all. Thanks for watching, guys and gals, and until my next video, cheers.